ये मे मतम इदम नित्यम ये मे मतम
किमदमिदं नित्यम्
अनुतिष्ठन्ति मानवा
अनुतिष्ठन्ति
अनुतिष्ठन्ति
मानवाः
मानवा
श्रद्धावान्तो न सूयन्तो
श्रद्धावन्तो न
श्रद्धावन्तो
सूयन्तो
अनुसूयन्तो
उच्यन्ते तेऽपि कर्मभिः.
मुच्यन्ते ते
मुच्यन्ते तेऽपि कर्मभिः।
Any volunteers who would like to read the translation proper?
Yes, I can read.
Thank you.
Those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow this teaching faithfully without envy becomes free from the bondage of fruitive actions. Purport. The injunction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is the essence of all Vedic wisdom and therefore is eternally true without exception. As the Vedas are eternal, so this truth of Krishna consciousness is also eternal. One should have firm faith in this junction without envying the Lord. There are many philosophers who write comments on the Bhagavad Gita but have no faith in Krishna. They will never be liberated from the bondage of fruitive action, but an ordinary man with firm faith in the internal injunctions of the Lord, even though unable to execute such orders, becomes liberated from the bondage of the law of karma. In the beginning of Krishna consciousness, one may not fully discharge the injunctions of the Lord, but because one is not resentful of this principle and works sincerely without consideration of defeat and hopelessness, he will surely be promoted to the stage of pure Krishna consciousness. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for reading. So last time we were discussing how Krishna mentioned in what consciousness one has to do his duty. So this is Karma Yoga chapter. Arjun starts it by asking, you said not to do bad activities, but you're asking me to do war. And Krishna explained how it is not the activity of war which is bad, but it is the intention and the consciousness from which activity is being done. So Krishna was mentioning in the second chapter about nishkama karma, doing results, doing actions without focusing on the results. And in this chapter he is talking about how detachment has to be there, and how he gives example of him and Janak Maharaj doing duty from the point of view of setting up an exemplary behavior. So first was detachment, then exemplary behavior, how to follow, and then now Krishna is talking about in what consciousness it has to be done. With detachment means sannyasya-dhyatma chetasa. It is not that one has to renounce or take to sannyas, but has to do it in that consciousness even while being in the varna and ashram in which one is. So in a householder life, in a kshatriya life, how one has to conduct? By having consciousness of sannyas. And that way one has to do their duty. In this particular shloka, Krishna is telling about the consequences who do such thing. So those who execute these duties according to what Krishna has told and who follow the teachings faithfully, and they are not envious, they become free from karma bandhan, from the bondage of fruitive actions. In purport, Prabhupada is explaining that Krishna consciousness is so here he says injunction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is the essence of all Vedic wisdom, and therefore is eternally true without exception, which basically means that what the Lord is saying here is the essence of all Vedas. And if one has firm faith in the injunctions of the Lord and one is not envious. So, envy is a big problem. Can anybody tell what envy means? What does the word envy means?
It means to be jealous, but jealous is when you're jealous of someone, like you want something that they have. But envy is when you're jealous of someone and you want the bad things to happen to them.
Yeah, it's an extreme form of jealousy where you don't just want that, but you want the other person to actually uh, have a lot more bad things. So this is a classic example for envy is from the scriptures. Can anybody give any classic example? Who's the most envious person you can? One of the most envious person in this from the scripture.
Shurpanakha.
Duryodhan.
Yes, Duryodhan is the classic example. Because when it talks about giving Pandavas, he was not just happy with taking what Pandavas had, but he wanted nothing to be nothing positive to happen to Pandavas. So he was extremely envious. Any other examples of envy? Maybe from the
Shurpanakha.
Mahabharata itself.
Shurpanakha.
How is that envy?
She was envious of Sita because she was Ram's wife.
Very good. That's a good example.
Manthara.
Mantra, how is that example of envy?
She sent Ram. She told
Very
Ram to go to the Vanvas.
yes, that's very nice. Because she wanted her son to have the kingdom. So she had that. Okay.
Her queen. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What else? Who else? Yeah, Mantra, her queen. Sorry. Okay. So there are so many examples. Shishupal is another example. He did not like Krishna. He was envious of God only. And there are many examples of personalities who are envious of God. So when we try to see our consciousness, we may think, "Arey, I am such a nice person. I am such nice, boy or a girl." But if we see our heart of heart, we'll find that it may have some scope for improvement. And if we are having hatred toward anyone, any living entity, that could be a sign that there is a scope of improvement. If we have a feeling of jealousy or enviousness, it won't come and say, "Hey, you're jealous." It may take a garb and may make us feel that no, 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 I'm saying this because of some reason. Like sometimes some people, they may say good things about another person. They may say few good things and then they say but, and then after but they will say so many other things, and they are not so good. They are very, very bad about that person. And this but के बाद, after this but, the real story starts, what is going on in their heart. So when such words we hear, either from outside people or from within our heart, if it comes from somebody else, we must understand this is a sign that some envious thing is coming. So we should immediately address it. How to address? By glorifying. Glorifying within our heart to that person and glorifying outside also. So envy is there, is the root cause because of which we are stuck in the cycle of karma. If one gets free from envy, one can very easily accept God, accept other living entities, and one can be united in the service of the Lord. And that kind of uh, perfection is not easy to obtain because envy is very, very strong and deep rooted. So here the Lord is saying one has to be without envy. Now, the envy for other people or for the Lord is displayed by the dealings of different people. Here, Prabhupada gives an example of philosophers writing on Bhagavad Gita but not having any faith on Krishna. So they take words from the Bhagavad Gita, but they don't have any connection with Krishna, and they don't even talk about Krishna, and they don't even have any mood of service to Krishna. But what they have is um, envy in their heart, which may not appear to us if we are not properly uh, trained in this science. When we are properly trained, then we can find the envy within our heart, and then we take a notice of it, and then we address it. Prabhupada also mentions here that if we have this envy, then obviously we'll not be liberated and we'll be bounded by this karma bandhan, and ordinary living entities get stuck here and they are not able to come out of it. But if one is able to engage in the service of the Lord and identify this envy, and in the early stages only take care of it, then one can advance very wonderfully and can be promoted to the pure Krishna consciousness. Then one will be very happy and blissful. Does it make sense? Anybody has any questions, comments, or any points from the shloka?
I just have a clarification
Yes,
question.
please.
So, can we go to that one? I'm just trying to see that word that kind of came off to me. Fruitive action. So, are they meaning fruitive action is the bondage of pain and pleasure?
So
Like not.
fruitive action means karma, due and activities which we do with intention of getting results, getting karma. So fruitive action means bondage of fruitive action means everybody is in cycle of karma, right? When we do activity, we get results, and we do certain activities with the desire of getting results. This
Yeah.
mentality keeps us captured. Coming out of it is nishkam karma, and then highest is bhakti yoga. Nishkam karma means doing duties with detachment, and bhakti yoga is when we are actually doing it by keeping Krishna in center. So we are detached also, but also we have a higher goal of connecting with the Lord. So when we do that, then we don't get bound by karma. Then we don't do duty or activities for wanting of karmic results. We do it as a means to advance spiritually and to connect with God and to serve the Lord. So that way we can come out of this karma bandhan. In that consciousness, one doesn't get karmic reactions. Does it answer your question?
Yes, it does. Because it was like every individual would like to achieve fruitive actions. So, but here in the context is different, as you explained. So, yes, it's clear.
Yeah, everybody wants fruitive action, but then fruitive action means it can be good fruit or bad fruit also.
Yeah.
Yeah, many times when we taste the fruit, it's very bitter. Some tragedy happens, some losses happens. So those are bitter fruits. So it's a part and parcel, the head and tail come together in a coin. So similarly, in this also, pleasure and pain will come together when the karmic reactions come. Sometimes one can become a king, sometimes one can become, a pauper on the street.
Mhm.
Okay, we'll go to the next shloka. ये त्व एतद् अभ्यसूयन्तो
ये त्व एतद् अभ्यसूयन्तो
नानुतिष्ठन्ति मे मतम्
नानुतिष्ठन्ति मे मतम्
सर्वज्ञानविमूढांस्तान्
सर्वज्ञानविमूढांस्तान्
विधिनष्टान चेतसा.
Vedhi Nashtan Achitasha.
Volunteers who would like to read the translation? Okay.
I can read.
Please.
But those who, out of envy, disregard these teachings and do not follow them regularly are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, befooled, and ruined in their endeavors for perfection. Purport. The flaw of not being Krishna conscious is clearly stated herein, as there is punishment for disobedience to the order of the Supreme Executive Head, so there is certainly punishment for disobedience to the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A disobedient person, however great he may be, is ignorant of his own self and of the Supreme Brahman, Paramatma, and the personality of Godhead. Due to a vacant heart, therefore, there is no hope of perfection of life for him. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. So, in all the religions we see, there is some sort of do's and some sort of don'ts. This is basically there not just in religion but in any field. So, if let's say you get a job, there are certain do's and there are certain don'ts. If you don't follow them, then the company, they will not necessarily keep up with you. They'll say okay, they'll fire you. You work for a university, there are certain do's, certain don'ts, your norms you have to follow. If you are in a society, there are certain do's and certain don'ts. Criminals are like don'ts and they have to be punished, so they are put in jail. So do's and don'ts exist not just in religion but in any sphere, anywhere, any activity, right? Now the problem is that religion is not just do's and don'ts, it's much beyond that. In Abrahamic religions, like, how many of you know what are Abrahamic religions?
Christianity,
That's it?
Judaism,
Judaism?
Okay. So Abrahamic religions means those religions who believe that Abraham was a prophet. And this is believed in Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, all three of them. So they believe that Abraham was a prophet. And then the other section is, which originates from the subcontinent, Indian subcontinent, is dharmic religions, which includes Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, so on and so forth. So the difference is that in Abrahamic religions, there is focus on do's and don'ts, but not so much focus on the activities of God. They don't have much idea about God. Some of the people, they have a conception that God is somewhere, up there. Just the one only business he has is keep looking who is doing the right thing, who is uh, following me, just bring them under my control and get them to heaven. If somebody is not following, just throw them in burning fire of hell. So this is the vague concept they have, which is not really the true reality. In the Vedic culture, the activities of God, called as Leela, have given a special section, and God is least bothered about the activities which I am doing, because that is controlled by an energy of the Lord. So Krishna doesn't have to get involved for giving the reactions of karma of my life. That is just taken care of by Krishna's energy. There are so many living entities, innumerable living entities in this whole creation. and each one of them is getting the reactions. And this is happening just by the energies of the Lord doesn't have to personally be there. He is having his leelas and pastimes with his loved ones, his devotees, and that is uninterrupted, constant, eternal, going on. And Lord even invites other people that you can be a part here too. You can have come and join the party, have fun with us. But we are so caught up in our own desires that we never get a chance to even look at this proposition. And Lord as Paramatma is guiding us within all the time. So, for those who are too preoccupied in their own life, the first step is to at least follow do's and don'ts. But when one wants to know more about spiritual life, then one gets connected to the Vedic literatures, the Bhagavad Gita and others, where one can understand, okay, these are just basic do's and don'ts, which Abrahamic religions are talking about. We have to go much beyond this. We have to go in a way where we can have loving relationship in the service of the Lord. That loving relationship is what will actually satisfy us. If we don't have that relationship, then we will not be happy, blissful, and our efforts will actually not get the maximum result. So here in this particular shloka, Krishna is giving the other aspect. He's saying those who follow and do good, then what do they get? They get freed from the bondage of karma. And here he's saying those who don't follow the recommendations, those who are envy, those who disregard the teachings, they are not having much knowledge. They are not considered knowledgeable. In fact, they are like fools. And whatever their efforts are, they don't lead to perfection. Their endeavors are actually ruined and don't lead to perfection. In Purport, Prabhupada is mentioning that Krishna conscious person is not having these qualities. So they are not envious. So Krishna consciousness helps us overcome this envying tendency or mentality which has been going on for so many lifetimes. In so many births, we have had this tendency. And now, when we are in association with Krishna, Bhagavad Gita, devotees, then we actually get to a process which, if we apply nicely, we can get rid of the envying mentality. So when the envying mentality goes, then we don't have to go through the punishment. But if we don't take to this process and we stay with the enviousness mentality and we disregard the teachings, then that will cause us to miss out on this opportunity. And then what happens? One is basically ignorant, one cannot understand about the Lord, one's heart doesn't get transformed, one doesn't get to perfection, and then one stays in the karmic bondage. And one birth after another birth, one keeps getting another life till one gets another next human life. And when one gets a human life, then again one will get a chance to correct oneself. But one is intelligent, one will not want to suffer for that many times. There is so many sufferings, so many natural calamities, so much people are working hard to make two ends meet. And if somebody is having some resources or some some sort of an enjoyment, you don't know how long it is going to last. It can go away like this. Big kings, one day they were king, and next day they are actually, everything is gone. Like for example, the president of Iraq, Saddam Hussein, he had everything, and then his country was attacked, and after some time, he had no place to even stay alive. Right now, we hear about this news of Venezuelan president. One day he's, one of the richest countries with so much oil reserves, but next moment he's a prisoner in the jail. So how the clock will turn, favorably or unfavorably, we don't know. But if we are taking to this process and we take up Krishna consciousness, then one thing is guaranteed, that the next life, once this body is gone, the next life we will not get animal life, we'll get a human life. And that too, in which we can progress and advance in our spiritual journey. So one should take this particular human life very seriously and sincerely, rather than letting it go. Time is going very fast. Just like if you hold sand on your hand, sand is, we are losing sand. It is going down from our hand. Time is like that. We can't hold on to it. It keeps going out. Even though we are holding it, but it's not, we can't stop it. So every single day, one day less is there for us. Life, we are losing life. So it's very important to get our acts together and take to this science seriously and sincerely. Okay, any questions or any points from this shloka?
I do. Would you mind giving a little bit more clarity on this difference between Abraham and Vedic religion, if you don't mind?
Yeah,
Little
yeah.
bit more nuances.
Oh, sure. So Abrahamic religions, if you see, they believe um, that the prophets are there, and in Jewish Jewish tradition, there was a belief that a prophet will come. So when Jesus came, many of the people, they thought, oh, this is the prophet who has come now, and they accepted Jesus as prophet, and they became Christian, and they started, having this propensity that Jesus is here to save the world. And later on, many of the sections started believing that Jesus is God Himself. So they have Catholics and Protestants. I'll not go to that discussion. Later on, when Muhammad came and he was being represented as a prophet, many people started accepting, okay, Jews, they were a lot in that area, and they said, okay, so Muhammad is the prophet. So these religions, they believe lot of prophets have come in the past, all of them except Abraham as one of the prophets. And Jews, their understanding is that another prophet will come, but all those who took Jesus as the prophet, they became Christians. Those who took Muhammad as a prophet, they became, followers of Islam. And of course, both of them, they later on did so much conversions and so much, spreading of their own religion at any cost, pretty much. And that is how their religions have spread. But they have certain things which are common in their belief system. On the other hand, dharmic religions, there are certain things which are common. There's no definition for Hinduism. If you say Hindu, that basically word came from those who were on the other side of Indus River, right? And
Yes, that's true.
and the Hindus, dharmic religion, basically you'll see common thing is karma, reincarnation. These things are commonly understood in these particular religions, so they are clubbed as similar in that sense. Does it make sense?
I would like to know the one that you said in the Vedic, more emphasis on Vedic religion about how it is different from do and don'ts that you were talking about, Ibrahim, the process. So,
Yeah. So that's a good question.
yeah.
When we come to any kind of discipline, do's and don'ts are automatically there. But But do's and don'ts is not the purpose of that. Let's say you want to go to the army, your purpose is not to do do's and don'ts. Do's and don'ts help you to become a better professional. Same thing when you come to medical school, it helps you in becoming a better doctor. It's not meant as per se. Do's and don'ts is not the focus. The focus is learning and gaining how to really do that. Similarly, in spiritual life, the focus is only one. The religion has only one purpose, that is to love God. That's it. Anything which is done for that purpose, we can say that okay, this makes sense, this is could be a bona fide religion. But if that is not there, then we have to look into it more to really say if it's a bona fide religion or not. So for loving God, you need to know about the activities of God, the nature of God, the pastimes of God, what God likes, what are his dislikes. If I want to know if I want to love a person, I need to know more about that person, spend time with the person, have interactions with the person. And we can do the same when we take to spiritual life. We can know about God. And Vedic culture is Vedic literature is the only literature which talks about these aspects. There are not much details about what is the name of God, what activities God likes in the Abrahamic religion. If you see, there are some Abrahamic religion priests or followers who have given some details of God, but they are very minimal, and some of them even correspond and are similar to what the Vedic literature talks about. But in Vedic literature, you get to know much more about it. So, in that way, the concept of Leela, which was not so much revealed in the Abrahamic religions, is actually revealed in the Vedic literatures.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else has any question on this? Okay, so we'll do one more and then we'll end. Sadrisham chestate swasya.
Sadritam
Sadrisham
chestasvas
cheksvate svasya
Prakritirjnanavanapi.
प्रकृतिर्ज्ञानवानपि
prakritirjnanavanapi
Prakritiryanti bhutani.
प्रकृतिर्यान्ति
prakritiryanti
भूतानि
bhutani
Nigraha kim karishyati.
निग्रहः
nigraha
किं
kim
करिष्यति
karishyati.
We'll read the translation in purport. Anshika, start.
Okay. Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature. For everyone who follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes, what can repression accomplish?
Purport.
Unless one is situated on the transcendental platform of Krishna consciousness, he cannot get free from the influence of modes of material nature, as it is confirmed by the Lord in the 7th chapter, 7.14. Therefore, even for the most educated person on the mundane plane, it is impossible to get out of the entanglement of Maya simply by theoretical knowledge or by separating the soul from the body. There are many so-called spiritualists who outwardly pose as advanced in the science, but inwardly or privately are completely under his long association,
Under particular modes of nature.
under particular modes of nature, which they are unable to surpass. Academically, one may be very learned, but because of his long association with the material nature, he is in bondage. Krishna consciousness helps one to get out of material entanglement, even though one might be engaged in his prescribed duties in terms of material existence. Therefore, without being fully in Krishna consciousness, one should not give up his occupational duties.
No one?
No one should suddenly give up his prescribed duties and become a so-called yogi or transcendentalist artificially. It is better to be situated in one's position and try to attain Krishna consciousness under superior training. Thus, one may be freed from the clutches of Krishna's Maya.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for reading. So here Krishna is telling Arjun. So first Krishna said, if you follow these instructions without envy, then you'll be free from bondage, and you'll be able to advance spiritually and even materially. But if one doesn't follow these, one is envious, one just disregard these teachings, then one will be like a fool and will have to be, have to face the consequences for that. In this particular shloka, Krishna is mentioning that everybody has a nature and one has to act in that nature. And it's in Arjuna's training, he's a Kshatriya. So that nature, if you try to repress the nature of being a Kshatriya, then that is not recommended. What can repression accomplish? Prabhupada is explaining that the modes of material nature, they actually force us to act in a certain manner. So based upon our habits, our tendencies, our upbringing, there are certain samskaras uh, which are formed, and based upon the samskaras we conduct ourselves. They actually determine our characteristics, our nature, all of those things. So samskaras, when they become very very strong, they become vasana. So based upon samskara and vasana, it's very difficult for one to give those up. Prabhupada is saying that if one takes to Krishna consciousness, then one can overcome the three modes of the material nature. And when one is able to overcome those modes of material nature, then his habits changing becomes very easy. And we've seen that. We've seen Prabhupada training his students who were in totally different kind of environment, but when they took to Krishna consciousness, their habits changed. And I live in a city called Alachua, where I have so many students of Prabhupada who've been practicing for more than 50 years. They have given up all those propensities which they probably had in the first 10-15 years of life, or 20 years of life, or 25 years of life. But once they took to this process and started training themselves, it has been 40-50 years and they're still continuing to practice this. So they have been able to overcome and change their habits. So the modes of material nature, the way they are structured, they actually entangle us. But when we are seriously and sincerely practicing, we can overcome those. But when we have a certain nature which has to be engaged in the service of Krishna for protection of dharma, that nature does not need to be changed. In fact, such nature has to be utilized in the service, and it is not recommended to change such nature. So if Arjun is a Kshatriya and he has a nature for protecting dharma, Arjuna should not repress such a nature. He should use it in service of the Lord. So this is basically here emphasized, that those who are without Krishna consciousness, they cannot suppress. But those who are with Krishna consciousness, they can overcome this. But those who are engaged in karma yoga, they don't need to change if it is for protection of dharma and engaged in the service of the Lord. And therefore Arjun should take up this process of karma yoga and do his duty, and based upon the correct consciousness, correct intention, should fight. So this is how Krishna is inspiring him, that don't repress this propensity of yours. And in our life also, we have to see how our propensities which are conducive for doing a particular service, we have to use it in that way. We should not repress those propensities which can be used in service. On the other hand, if there are things which are detrimental to spiritual life, those things can easily be curbed if one takes to serious and sincere Krishna consciousness. Okay, any questions anybody has from this? This is the important shloka. Any questions, comments, any points anybody would like to bring up for discussion? Okay, so I think we'll stop here. 33 and 34 shloka we'll do next week. Okay, thank you very much everyone. Granth Raj, Bhagavad Gita.